Is it just me or does it feel like there's mad death flags right now? Like crazy, insane death flags in My Hero Academia, and I'm just here like,
Horikoshi, please, just stop. It hurts at this point. Please, no more.
like legitimately, it's getting very intense, too intense to the point where it's kind of like, my gosh, what's about to happen here right now? Before we jump in, please hit that subscribe button and that bell to get all notifications. We're going to be talking about anime, manga, all sorts of stuff over here constantly like we've been doing, so hit them buttons. Please, Horikoshi, don't do it. I know what you're thinking about doing. I know what's on your mind right now, what character you're considering killing off, but for the love of God, Horikoshi, don't do it. It's okay, Endeavor. He can't hurt you here. I promise. We gotta talk a little bit about this My Hero Academia. Last few chapters have been bananas, and it got me here hugging a figure of Endeavor. Let's talk about it, shall we?
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
So in case you ain't been keeping up to speed, My Hero Academia has had a lot of battles, but in particular, Endeavor has been thrown down with the monster himself, All For One. And I'm gonna just keep it real, going back into the whole discussion, not to dive too deep into it, but All For One definitely should start whipping more stuff out. I feel like Horikoshi couldn't figure a good way to kind of nullify him, because realistically, this man is a walking one for all, but with a bad conscience of, hey, he has no conscience, shall I say, of he's just pure evil. Like, dude just doesn't care. So how do you do that? How do you stop something like that, considering, yo, don't forget that the combination of All For One and Shigaraki was able to take out Star and Stripe. With Star and Stripe, that New World Order technique was beyond broken. And admittedly, to this point, I'm still kind of like, so it wasn't really Jiro, but all of the quirks basically rebelling, and they even tried to emphasize it a couple different times, because I'm sure fans was like, that is so terrible. Like, Jiro should not be doing a goddamn thing to All For One, let alone inspiring, but hey, it is what it is. But ultimately, having all of those quirks nullified, still at the end of the day, is kind of crazy that Endeavor is still struggling against All For One, and All For One is broken. And this was the best medium I feel that Horikoshi could come up with of how do I kind of nullify him a bit so it's a little bit more of an even playing field, let alone what's happening to Shigaraki right now, which we're gonna get into it, because in case you don't know, I am a massive Tomura fan. I love Shigaraki Tomura as a character, what he represents, what he's trying to accomplish, and we'll get to that in a second. Because don't get me wrong, there is some very epic bits that has happened with All For One recently. In particular, dog is charred up and still on some other shit. And a lot of people didn't want to give the legitimacy to it, but I still gotta hand it hands down. The one thing that All For One is doing so great with is playing people like a fiddle. Like, once again, he had Endeavor jumping out of character. Endeavor's like, oh my god, because he keeps on baiting him, talking about his children, which, to be fair, I gotta throw a pass in there. And this is where maybe I'm projecting to a certain degree that you talk about my kids, dog, alone, it gets me a little bit, little irate. But let alone, dog, you in the middle of a life or death situation, you're contemplating your own mortality, you're looking at yourself as a failure. He's having an internal war. Like, I would argue that Endeavor's war within himself is more of a difficult task than fighting All For One for himself right now. Like, I think that that's just a whole different ball game for him. So you have that going on, but then on top of that, you have this dude that is up in your face, one of the biggest and strongest villains of the world right now, and he's talking crap like, yo, dog, your son, you know what happened with your son, dog? It was me, Dio. And I'm not even gonna lie, it definitely was setting up for a moment that was kind of reminiscent to a certain degree of Vegeta. In fact, I would throw the argument of, I see the inspiration, I might be off on this, but definitely I feel inspiration with Endeavor is coming from Majin Vegeta. I could clearly see it as day. Essentially, if you think about it, Vegeta is pretty much like the original Endeavor when it came to somebody that was once a piece of shit, kinda sorta was good for a bit, once again was reverting back to being a piece of shit, and then ultimately it was the thoughts of his family, it was the thoughts of the people that he loves and cares about the most that kind of helped him to quote unquote kill the ego. Now Dragon Ball Super is a different story, and I really like what they're doing with the ultra ego thing as well, because it's not necessarily what the name exactly entails, but nevertheless it kind of reminds me of when Majin Vegeta said, yo, I'm gonna basically try and sacrifice myself against Majin Buu, and y'all know how that went. It ultimately didn't go so well, and the threat still remained, but it seems as though that was the inspiration, and similar to how it didn't work for Majin Vegeta, seemingly it's not working for Endeavor either, which once again I gotta just give massive props to All For One, because while yeah, he may not be utilizing quirks like crazy, in fact we have this excuse that prevents him from it, that the quirks are rebelling, but either way he's still doing the damn thing, and he's freaking charcoaled out. He got burned to a freaking crisp. Homie is like a Rice Krispie right now. But in his triumphant quest of basically being a sacrifice, you know what I'm saying? He was gonna be a scapegoat essentially. Endeavor done goofed. Endeavor done messed up because yeah. One of the best things that I love about My Hero Academia is when they allow Horikoshi to do what Horikoshi likes to do. Because in case you can't tell, it seems as though Horikoshi really likes his villains. It seems as though he really likes to showcase, like, okay, if the heroes are struggling and we're seeing all of their little foibles and everything that they're going through on their quest to being a hero, let's see the opposite side of things, and let's also showcase that it's not only Nakama power-ups, it's not only the power-up friendship for the good guys, the villains can do it too. Because when Endeavor is hugged up on All For One and saying, I'll do this for Toya, I'll do this for my family, about to make the ultimate sacrifice, when All For One basically hits him with a reverse Uno, I was just there like, oh my god, what is about to happen, dog? The death flags are here. And there's a panel that kind of is saying otherwise, so we'll get to that in a second. But All For One pretty much hits him with one of the greatest lines. I love it so much because he basically says, heroes don't have a monopoly on big sacrificial moments, you know? Villains are also scariest when wounded. And this panel alone, Jesus freaking Christ, he's like burnt to a crisp. He's an eyeball, almost looked like Chucky from the first Child's Play movie where he's like burnt to a crisp and he's still coming at Andy with the knife. That kind of gives me those vibes. But going back to what I was just saying, one of the really awesome things about My Hero Academia is it essentially is giving him a sacrificial power-up as well, where he's like, yo, dog, it's not only the heroes that are going to have that epic moment a la a fairy tale where, you know, the heroes, the friendship or whatnot, villains can do that shit too. And thank you. Because whether you want to accept it or not, villains have their own quests and they have their own things that they're striving for, and it may be dastardly, it may be evil, it may be messed up, but why can't they have those power-ups too, considering the fact that they're giving it their all? Even Vegeta, back when, before he became a good guy, so to speak, when he was trying to go Super Saiyan, he had goals, didn't he? He wanted to surpass certain limits, he wanted to do certain things, and ultimately he did when he unlocked Super Saiyan on that planet where he said, I don't care anymore. And then it happened. The villains can do it too, and I am so freaking dying for the moment to see, okay, exactly what is this type of sacrificial thing that you're gonna do? Are you about to just explode right there and we're about to see Endeavor's head go flying? Although, even though the death flags are arisen and have been arisen or whatever, they're up for Endeavor. They've been there for a while, just keeping it a buck. It feels like it's been teasing that Endeavor is gonna die, so much so that I could see the fan base revolting. No, why didn't he do it? He's been teasing it for so long. Like I remember with the Fairy Tail fandom, they got really mad that Makarov's death was teased so many different times and he never died. I could see fans getting upset like, yo dog, stop teasing it if it's not gonna happen, because the following scene after that kind of suggests that the death flags might be a little bit false, mate. Because we cut from there to straight up seeing one of the predecessors of One for All with Midoriya, and he says, Midoriya, and Deku says, the first, what is it? I've got a bad feeling about this, and Deku senses something going on over there. But to me, that leads me to say that if he is indeed headed towards Endeavor, then more than likely he's going to save Endeavor from a massive sacrificial explosion that All For One is about to do. But I still think that even if Endeavor doesn't die, I think after this, it'll probably be the case where he's going to be completely put out of commission. Like, I think if we're going to get another series after this, a lot of these pro heroes are going to be out of commission, and it's going to be the replacing, you know, the passing of the torch for all of them. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever's about to go down and whatever All For One is about to do is probably going to injure Endeavor to the point of him not being able to be a hero, if it doesn't kill him. I think that Deku is going to save him. I don't want to say unfortunately, I just don't like that, again, we're getting into the teasing, it's gonna happen, and it's like, dog, don't play with it. Like, because at the end of the day, that's something that, first of all, that's my favorite character, bar none, of My Hero Academia. It's already making me, I'm like bracing for it. Okay, he's gonna do this to us, he's gonna do it. And then if you just keep faking it out, eventually it'll be like Fairy Tail, where people are gonna be like, okay, cut this shit already, Horikoshi, now you're doing too much. But I guess we gotta wait and see. Either way, I still love the idea that All For One is like, yo, we got our power-ups too, fam. It's not just you lads. And then cutting to the flip side of things, where I was just kind of like, oh my god, y'all doing Tomoda so dirty, even though it's not really Tomoda per se, because at this point he just feels way more intelligent, and it's damn near All For One pretty much in Shigaraki skin at this point. Like, there's a little bit of Tomoda in there, but I'm dying for the moment that I have no doubt in my mind is going to come where All For One is ripped out of there. Because if All For One just remains in Shigaraki's body, I will personally feel straight up like a slap in the face of, so you built this guy up immensely, greatly, of this is his time to shine, only for the villain from the previous generation to slowly infiltrate and take over and kind of undermine everything that was built up for Shigaraki to be the great villain. I feel like if we're gonna go into a My Hero Academia part 2, so to speak, with everybody being older, it should be, and it will be, with Shigaraki being the main villain and becoming the new All For One. But I want it to be Tomoda. I want it to be Shigaraki himself. I don't want it to be All For One. Or if it is with All For One somehow involved, I just want it to be maybe with those principles of what he talks about later on in one of the latest chapters of becoming a god, so to speak. Like, that's cool. If that's what he wants to, you know, upgrades his goal a little bit from just a kid boo. I just want to break everything, destroy everything, to no, I'm gonna suppress everybody equally, oppress them or whatnot. Like, okay, that works a little bit better. But I say all that to say that, dog, they doing our boy so wrong, because they are jumping him to the max. Granted, it just shows what level of threat he is, that they are throwing everything in the book at him, from Mirko to Bakugo to Aizawa taking his, like, they literally have him completely stripped and he's still kicking ass. This just shows the level that Shigaraki is right now, that if it was 1v1, if you remove all of these people right now, Deku is getting decimated, dog. Deku stands no chance in my opinion, and if I'm off, please feel free to fill me in. But I feel even with all of the quirks that he has from One For All right now, Deku's experience and everything, like, if he went up toe to toe with Shigaraki right now, oh, he's dying, he's getting destroyed. And if he doesn't, I'm gonna call super BS, because look at everything they're doing to keep him down and they're still struggling. I mean, they got pro hero on pro hero, they got his quirk strip and whatnot, and he's still doing the damn thing. I mean, for crying out loud, Bakugo is using new techniques, and I love also in the midst of all this, because I gotta keep it clear, Bakugo's character development shining through and through, because basically, you know, we see, for starters, of course, his new bomb techniques, and we even see that, you know, Best Genius is very surprised and shocked, like, yeah, you could do it, like, that's all cool. But the speech that he gave, where he's basically saying, like, yo, dog, since Kamino, I'm so sick of this All For One and this Shigaraki guy. Like, I at one point maybe had a mindset that was not necessarily similar, but ultimately, like, I'm over all of that shit. I don't give a fuck about none of you dudes, and it's about to be a wrap. Like, it's building up Bakugo in terms of, yeah, he's a strong threat, but realistically, Bakugo, you could talk all of that smack right now and you probably feel real brave, but in a heartbeat, if Aizawa blinked, it's curtains for you. You're gonna turn into little Bakugo dust. And imagine that, dog. Imagine My Hero had the balls to turn Bakugo into Baku dust. How would you feel right now? Please let me know. Let's be honest, My Hero wouldn't have the guts to do that. So while Best Genius was proud of him and Bakugo was talking to smack, I was like, you realize that this dude is like tied up and anchored down right now. If he was free to do what he wants, it would be curtains for everybody on that field. They're lucky right now. And when he's free, when the monster is capable of doing what he wants at full capacity, it'll be curtains. But I also like the fact, now that I think about it, that it's really demonstrating that All For One in his physical normal body is pretty much already gone. He's at this point, like, you know, burnt up, and he's probably gonna do one final sacrificial attack to take out Endeavor and whoever's nearby. But it seems as though the future of All For One, until he's completely eradicated, will be within the body of Shigaraki. And if we're going into a part 2 at some given point, if this isn't going to be the end after Horikoshi wraps up this academia portion, then it will be perfect for, again, if All For One's going to be around, maybe he could be in Shigaraki's body but not necessarily control him, just kind of be like a phantom within his head, but Shigaraki still is the one calling the shots moving forward. I gotta keep on hoping on for hope, because you don't build up a really epic character like Shigaraki and then sideline him for somebody that, in my opinion, probably should have been Dunzo, since All Might fought him way back in Kamino. Speaking of, All Might is still alive, so Night Eye's vision hasn't come to fruition just yet, eh? And something that I mentioned earlier, I really appreciated. I just hope that that sticks to Tomoda whenever we rid ourselves of All For One, of him saying, I'm gonna be the new god of this world and everybody's gonna be equally oppressed under my foot. I love that. I'm not a fan of, I just want to destroy everything. It almost felt like a child raging. I'm gonna just keep it honest with you. It's like if, I don't know, one of my nieces or nephew just raged on a video game and threw the controller. Like, that's how I always felt about Shigaraki, just wanting to destroy everything with no goal. Like, if you're gonna destroy, then there has to be something at the end of it, like, oh, I'm gonna rebuild. Like, destroy and rebuild on some Ra Al Ghul, Rage Al Ghul, however you pronounce it. Like, that for me is okay. And the fact that he's going to go a step further, not only he's destroying, he's gonna become a god of this world. I like that more than just destruction with no goal in sight. Just destroy, destroy, destroy. Like, let's destroy and rebuild of what we feel and what we deem society should be. And I say all that to say that it's not fair what they're doing to my boy Shigaraki right now. You want to kill All For One, turn him into a Krispy Kreme donut? Yeah, do it. But not my boy Tomoda. I'm curious what you guys think about this whole situation right now. For starters, do you think Endeavor's gonna die? Bottom line, is it gonna come to fruition? You think Deku's gonna save him at the last moment? I gotta say this, it has to be a happy medium. If we're gonna be teasing all this, at the very least, the death that should happen for Endeavor should be internally the whole, I'm going to be the #1 hero, I'm going to be the best thing, to the point where he can't do it no more. However that happens, whether it be losing ligaments, whether it be, I don't know, he just becomes a torso moving forward, that needs to be the trade-off if he's not going to die, or it needs to be something just where it's otherworldly that just stops him moving forward and he has to sit down for the remainder of his life as a quote-unquote hero. Because other than that, I feel like fans are gonna be very fickle about like, yo dog, you rose the death flags way too many times, you played around, like either kill him or take something away. I mean, I guess with Toya taking the L, that's kind of, but still, no, that's not a good trade-off. Also, what do you guys think about them jumping Tomoda at this point? Like, I gotta say it, hands down, Bakugo talking all that smack, all of these people, Mirko, y'all can have y'all fun, but realistically, y'all know, y'all don't want it 1v1. 1v1, none of y'all want it with the boy. And again, maybe I'm too much of a Shigaraki fan, but it is what it is. And your overall thoughts and expectations for My Hero Academia moving forward. I love what's going on right now, but at the same time, I want my boy Tomoda to be free. That's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and yeah, free my boy Tomoda. It's kind of crazy.